All right, I'm Barbara Garrity Blake, and it's January 16th, 2010, and I'm here in Lennoxville at the home of Captain Al Dudley with Al and his brother Gary Dudley. So, Al, why don't you start off by telling me a little bit about what year you were born, where you grew up, and how you became involved in the Menhaden industry.
I was born November 26, 1948, and I grew up down on Lennoxville Point in a little community called Lewistown. And it was all Menhaden, without exception, just for maybe a couple of people, but everybody down here Menhaden fished, as which my great-granddaddy, both my granddaddies, my father. So I really was inherited into Menhaden fishing. That's all we knew, and that's all we done. And when I got of age, we always rode the boats with Daddy ever since we could just about walk. But when you had to be 18, when I started in 1966, to get in the crew for money. And the year I turned 18, I went fishing with my father.
When you call this place Lewistown?
This is Lewistown. It was formed by Gary and I, great-granddaddy Thomas Lewis. He come from over the Shackford Banks, married a girl named Sarah Harker from Harkers Island, and they say Harkers Island was named after her father. Now this was the late 1800s.
That would be Ebenezer Harker.
Yeah, and I'm ashamed to say I don't know the family roots as good as I should, but that's what we always heard coming up. And he come down here and bought all this shoreline. It was about a half a mile of it, I'd say, and had 10 children. And as they got married, he'd give them a piece of this land going from the shore to the road. And my great-granddaddy, Walter Dudley, come married his daughter, and he got this piece of land. That's how the Dudleys got here, but it is Lewistown. It was founded by the Lewises, and the people you talk about, Captain Charlie Lewis, Captain Charlie Clifton Lewis, Captain Otis Lewis, Captain Alec Lewis, Captain George Lewis, Captain Wiley Lewis. They all come from this village right here.
Mm-hmm. And so you grew up in a house not far from this house, right?
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now from my house. It can't be over 200 feet where we were raised. My father, they had a real good year on the old Louis T. inside boat for Beaufort Fisheries. I think they had $8.5 million. Him and my mama got married. She was a very young girl, and had me and Ricky a year and 12 days apart. And we lived here with Grandmama Stella and Granny Luther for 2 years, and then we moved over there. I think the year they had $8.5 million on the Louis T. He was working in the net, and I think that him and my uncle Warren Harris from Marshallburg, Ace Harris, they built the first house for $500.
How about that?
Yeah. No indoor plumbing.
So Gary, when did you come along?
I was born in 1954, April 15, 1954, and brung up just like Al.
Where are you in the order of children?
I'm next to the youngest.
Mm-hmm.
Next to the youngest, and anyway, Daddy was fishing down in Mississippi at the time. When I can remember, Mama was packing us into the car and take us down there, Mississippi summers, and we come back during the fall and all. But that's where my roots come from. First time I walked on a fishing vessel, I was 6 years old. Daddy took me out and fishing with him.
Really?
And I sort of got it in my blood ever since.
Was it a day trip?
It was a couple of days, yeah, down in Mississippi there on the old Algerville. I think it's the name of the boat he was on there.
Could a captain do that in this day and age? Would the company let you do that?
No, they won't let you do it.
Never anywhere. No.
Things have really changed, haven't they?
Yeah, we used to go on the boat. I got a picture of me and my brother Ricky, which was also a fish boat captain, us laying in the floor of the old R.L. Haney Jr. on a mattress. I was 10, I think Ricky was 11. But we would go out with him. We'd go down south every summer when it was really my exodus down south, Captain Charlie Lewis, Captain Charlie Clifton, Captain Ellick, Captain Otis, and everybody would go south in the Gulf. Except for the men that stayed around here fishing on the sound boats. Mm-hmm. But the women would pack the children up, and it'd be a caravan going south. And Gary and I went to Cameron, Louisiana when I was 3 years old. Daddy was down there fishing an old boat called the Dorley Ways.
The what?
Dorley Ways.
Huh.
And
I've never heard of that one.
Yeah, then we went back when I was 5. And he fished a boat. Captain Oliver Hunnins was fishing there and had his family and his mother, Captain Oliver's wife, Miss Pearl. She was raised right here beside me. She was Captain Charlie Lewis's daughter. Mm-hmm. Pearl Hunnins, Harold Hunnins, you know him, mm-hmm. Captain Harold. That was his mother. Okay. So it was just like I say, this community. That's all we ever knew. Mm-hmm. We went. The women followed the men in the summertime and took the children with them. And
was that before the interstate system, I-95 and all that?
I think so, yeah.
I ain't too sure they had paved roads all the way. What I remember, down in Georgia.
Yeah, we had to take a lot of alternate routes just to get there.
Yeah, it was
really?
South Georgia. We took the South Georgia route.
Mama had an old station wagon. It was loaded down to the gunnels. And the road was just about wide enough for 2 cars, and them 18-wheelers would pass us and just about blow us off the highway.
And would your mother be the only driver?
Yes, she would be.
We'd get a room and it'd be a 2-day trip, day and a half trip.
That's something for the wives back then, to travel by themselves with a load of kids.
Oh, yeah.
What a journey.
Yeah, the men would get on a place to stay, and you never knew what it was until you got there. And they didn't have no condos back then. I believe you can believe me. Most of it was an old shack somewhere. And Gary and I and the family, we'd live in a different house most summers. You never knew where you're going to be living.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And was it like going to a different world down there to Louisiana from here?
A different world, you say?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Well, people were different, a little different. You had to make adjustments. You seemed like every year you go there, you meet different people. Mm-hmm. Different friends and all. Some were friendlier than others, but it was different.
Yeah, Louisiana's a different country anyway.
Louisiana's totally
Cajuns,
different.
When we went down there, they were wearing loincloths and had spears in their hand, I think.
But, the natives were not friendly.
The alligator, the first time we went to Cameron in 1969, we had to stop and let about a 10-foot alligator cross the road before we got into Cameron. My wife was 17, 6 months pregnant, from Marshallburg. She looked at me and said, "Honey, where have you brung me?" I said, "I don't know."
Oh my God!
But it was different.
Very different.
Yeah, houses on stilts.
Why did the factories bring people from here down there when they had a whole labor pool there?
Well, it was a lot of fish boats back then and a lot of factories. Mm-hmm. When we went to Empire, when I was a very small boy, Quinn still had a factory there, and Smith. It was so many boats, they really needed a big labor force. Mm-hmm. It was a lot of boats. And
didn't the industry start here before it did on the Gulf?
Yes, the industry started up in the Virginia and New Jersey section, and then the Smiths discovered the Gulf and started opening up plants down there.
So, do you think part of it was that y'all you had the experience of knowing how to catch the fish, and the crews did too? So it was good to bring y'all down there?
Yeah. That's probably a lot like what it was. And they shipped a lot of boats from up here down there, and got it started. Mm-hmm. And they would send their people that they knew, like they knew how to catch Menhaden.
Right.
With them.
Well, tell me about your father.
Captain Elmer. Uh-huh. Daddy started fishing when he was 14 years old on one of these sound boats. And I think the fact it was Beaufort Fisheries, I'm sure it was. And they were still running around with oars the first year he fished. Him and my uncle, Buddy Boy Goodwin, Leroy Goodwin, they rode the inside bow oar. And he has a lot of stories about it. Captain George Lewis and my uncle Captain James Dudley were co-captains, and they would drop off in the purse boats right at daylight and row up and down Harkers Island Channel trying to sit on fish whipping, and they'd settle down, they'd row another half a mile, and then the next year they got engines in them, old hickeys they called them, and they thought they were somebody then, but he started fishing, and his daddy, my granddaddy, Captain Luther Dudley, was also a fish boat captain at times, and
that's going way back, huh?
yeah.
Yeah, and they grew up dirt poor too.
Yeah, it was a hard life.
Real poor. And Daddy made a good of around here, fishing. But when he had a chance to go down to Mississippi and fish, he looked at Mom and said, I grew up poor, but I ain't gonna let our family grow up that way. I'd go off and make a living. He paid his dues, that's for sure. He was an amazing man, an amazing fisherman. Just totally lived it, smart, could figure fish out, really didn't need a fish spotter. That's how good he was, had such a good eye for it. Knew just about as much about nets as anybody ever seen in my life. I mean, but he was an amazing fisherman, Daddy was. Hard worker.
Did he teach you everything you knew?
A lot. Taught a lot. Taught me a lot. He slept away more about fishing than a lot of captains. No, I can tell you that right now. He sure did.
He went in the Navy when he was 17, World War II. Come back.
You want to get that? Because I can pause this.
Yeah.
Let's pause it. Okay.
Like I was saying, Daddy went to the Navy in World War II when he was 17. And when the war ended, he come back, went back Menhaden fishing, and he got a job with my mama's daddy, Captain Roy Goodwin, up on the Jersey coast. They were fishing out of Atlantic City on a boat, the Barney Get. And first year he went mate, they caught 32 million fish, and they were getting her back by hand and belling fish with a scamp net.
It's a lot of fish.
And that was real good. That got him and Mama. I'm sure at that time it was like, we hit the lottery. And he fished with Grenade Roy. And then the next year, he got a boat out of Lewis, Delaware, the old Kingfisher, and fished her. And then the Jersey Beach dried up, literally. The fish disappeared. And it was bad for everybody.
The Barnegat.
The Barnegat, the boat Barnegat.
That boat, is that the boat that they had the first recording of a Menhaden shanty?
Yes, it is.
I think it is, yeah. That radio station out in New York coming.
Okay.
Robert Trout went out with, I think that was the radio announcer. He was popular at the time. He went out with my granddaddy Roy, and my grandmother, Grandmama Lola, was with them that day. And when we growed up, there was an old 33 record that the family had, and it had that interview with it, and it had the shantymen singing on it. And that's in the, Steve Goodwin found that in the Smithsonian Institute in Washington, D.C., and there's also a guy in Virginia with the Fishing Museum that has the recording of it. But that right there is probably one of a very few actual shantymen working songs when they're actually working in the net. Daddy said it. They had a crew. Grenade Roy had a crew. A lot of them was from Fernandina, Florida, and they were the best singers on the Jersey coast. And the yachts would come out of Atlantic City on slick cam days, and they could hear the men sing and just come up and park beside the purse boats to hear the shantymen sing songs. But Daddy could sing too. He could sing that Sweet Rosianna real good, and he'd sing with them. And
good guitar player too.
Yeah. But then Daddy went on down in the Gulf of Mexico. He worked himself up. He fished the old Lois Cay for Mr. Peck Humphrey. And then he went over to Reedsville Guana and Oil Company on an old boat called Algarve.
The what?
Algarve.
Algarve?
Yeah, she was a small boat, carried about 550,000. And then he worked his way up to the R.L. Haney Jr., which was a nicer boat. and he ended up on the Almond G. Dunton, which was the queen of the Menhaden fleet in 1965, and he was high boat in the Gulf of Mexico, and Daddy was high boat a lot of years. He was a good fisherman, worked hard. He was fanatic about it. I started fishing with him in 1966, and I can tell you, he was hard.
I fished with him a number of years.
Yeah.
I started out in the bunt pile.
He knew my name. I can promise you that.
Oh my gosh!
When you're the captain's son on a shad boat, you're called on. But it was a good experience, and like Gary said, Daddy had 4 sons, and 3 of them ended up being Menhaden fish boat captains.
3 of them did?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have a brother, Ricky.
Oh, that's right, Ricky.
Ricky was a good captain too.
Yep.
His health problems, he had to get out of it, but Ricky was a good captain. But we give Daddy all the credit, for what we do know about fishing.
Yeah.
And
what was the first boat you ever fished on?
I fished the Lois K.
Let me write that down. The Lois K.
Yep. She was a little small boat. Daddy had fished her way back.
And that was on the Gulf?
That was Mr. Peck Humphrey, Standard Products in Moss Point, Mississippi.
Okay. And how about you, Gary? What was your first boat?
Helge Hovland.
Mm-hmm. Hovland?
Hovland.
Was that Norwegian or something?
I think so, yeah.
It
is Norwegian.
Was that down at the Gulf too?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, was that another Peck? Okay.
That's Omega boat.
Huh. Okay.
I fished a boat named the Grand Mature. It's a Pottahaney builder, and one thing unique about it, my daddy fished her, my Uncle Joe Goodman fished her, and I fished her. That's 3 people in our family that fished that same boat. And Gary fished on her, went pot with me on the Chesapeake Bay on her.
Huh.
So we all, that was one boat that 3 of us out of the family fished.
Tell me the name again, the Grand
Mature. Mature is with a B.
Oh, okay,
Batture. It's a shoal that separates the Mississippi-Alabama line and the Gulf of Mexico, really.
All right.
Basically what it is. But
so when you were fishing with your father, he didn't give you any special treatment?
No, as a matter of fact, it was tough.
Yeah, we were special, all right.
we got treated all right.
Yeah, we got treated special. You do more than anybody else.
You better believe we did.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I fished. I worked the bows of the captain boat for him after I worked the bunt pile. Man,
we pursed by hand back then when I started, and put the tom weight over with a spool, and that's what I'd done. Called center tomming. You put the tom line around a spool cathead and put it overboard like that, and then you pursed the net with on a cathead like that. And they were my 2 jobs, and then you done a fixed ring by went and pulled cork, so it was a full day.
Well, I heard of a center tommer and a side tom. What's the side tom person do?
He hooked the purse line up to the tom weight.
Okay.
There's a block on each side of the tom weight, and you got a man in the bow that brings the mate boat purse line over and hooks it up to the block on the right side, on the side of the tom to the bow, and then you got. It's your ring setter and the captain boat hooks the other side up on the left side of the tom, and you got 2 purse lines, one on each side of your tom weight.
And how much did that tom weigh?
Well, anywhere from 800 to 1,400 pounds.
One I fished 1,400 pounds. One Al has 800.
Yeah,
Al's trying to get a heavier one from up there.
Yeah,
we fish in a lot of mud down in Mississippi. The bottom's different,
Did y'all ever work before? You're too young to have worked before the power block, right?
My uncle Steve Dudley, Captain Steve Dudley, of course Captain Gene Dudley, they all fished these sound boats, and I'd go out with them. They had wooden purse boats and no power blocks, and steel build with scant nets. And I'd go out with them fishing in the purse boats.
Well, I'm wondering how, raising the fish, but also how'd they get that big heavy tom back up?
They had a
little spool in there. Had a little gas engine.
Yeah,
they did.
Yeah.
Okay.
After they got engines on them, they called them hickeys to start with. One of the one cylinder that had a spool coming out each side of it, and they'd purse the net with it and put the tom weight over. Mm-hmm. Now there was a time, of course, the tom weight probably didn't weigh a couple of 100 pounds. They'd throw them overboard by hand, but. even my father, second year they had engines, they had the spools.
Yeah. So both of y'all have worked did you ever work at Beaufort Fisheries? Work for Beaufort Fisheries?
I was pilot with Alton.
You were pilot. Okay,
Yeah, I was pilot for about
you worked for the company here.
12 years.
Mm-hmm.
And now you both work for bigger companies, Chesapeake Bay, and where are you?
Moss Point,
Moss
Mississippi.
Point still. What are some of the changes that have happened with the way the companies go about the business of managing these boats and fishing operations? Has it changed? Has it become, I don't know, different than how Beaufort Fisheries or the smaller companies went about?
A lot more responsibility now for safety.
Uh-huh.
Safety is a big thing, a real big issue down there now, in both companies really. And that's one of the big things. You're responsible for so many things. One thing is safety of your crew. You had to have a safety drill every single week.
Really?
Before you leave the dock on a Sunday, you give a safety drill to your crew.
And what do you do for that?
Well, we get them into the galley, just pull them in the galley and tell them, how to wear a life preserver, what happens if we have a man overboard, the things we do in the purse boats to stay safe, when we're retrieving the net and all that.
Do you think that's helped? Has that made fishing safer?
I think it has. It has. Big thing is staying on the men, make sure they do what you tell them to do. You do have, 15 men in a crew, count me, and it's, you have to keep your eye on them at all times. But that is one of the things, the safety thing's a big thing right there,
Yeah. But despite that, tragically, you lost somebody this season.
Yeah, I sure did.
Yeah, but that was just one of those.
It's one of those freak things that happened. It was a mechanical failure. We had ammonia pop off, and a guy jumped overboard. And able to save one crew member, but the other one drowned before we could get to him.
He couldn't swim?
He obviously not very well,
Yeah, that's too bad.
It was bad.
Yeah. And what do you think, Al? Have you noticed a lot of change with the way companies go about it?
It's been a great change. Say 50 years ago, it was a lot of family-owned factories. There's a lot of factories around. And take even Beaufort Fisheries, that was really a family-run business. And Dye's old factory, and Quinn's, and Smith's, and Humphrey's. And the only thing they wanted out of a captain was to catch fish, get a crew of men and go fishing. Now it's a corporative deal. You got the company that Gary and I fish for, this Omega Protein. They got big headquarters in Houston, Texas, and they consider the captains executives of the company now, and it's a lot more of a corporative thing. Of course, they got real nice rigs, modern equipment, and it was a lot of junk in the Menhaden business.
You mean as far as the equipment?
The equipment. It was, I started, the first year I went mate, I went on an old wooden World War II sweeper to Brunswick. And they would bend and water would squirt outsides of them, and it was just a lot of junk around, a lot of boats, and they were all getting outdated. Anybody that could get the fish on, they'd put on them. Like Gary said, there was not the safety issues then as it is now. There's a lot of men getting drowned, most of them taking boats up and down when the boats would fall off davits. But I fished on a lot of junk with my daddy, a lot of boats that the Coast Guard probably wouldn't want to let go out in the ocean now. But it's become a very profitable business. Not too much competition in it anymore. Like I say, now it's just one factory on the East Coast. Used to it was 15, 20. And they run it like a corporation. Mm-hmm. We, like Gary said, the safety issues. Now the crew used to, when I started fishing with my father, I got 12 cents 1,000. No guarantee, nothing, no benefits, no health insurance. Now the crews are offered health insurance, 401k plans.
Wow.
And a guarantee, over $1 million a week, they'll guarantee if you catch a fish or not. So it's structured now more like a corporate business than it used to be, just Menhaden, just fishing.
Was that because of the unions, or was that just the corporate policies?
Well, as the industry started losing these little factories and all these boats being put out of commission, the people who got control, it's almost a monopoly that Omega's got, except for Borden Wallace out of Empire, and he ain't the one factory doing competition. And Omega's got 3 factories in the Gulf and 1 on the Chesapeake Bay. So, they can sort of dictate the standard they want, and that they want fishing to go at. And it's, I heard last summer that they were selling scrap to Saudi Arabia for $1,200 a ton. And if Jewel could have got $400, he'd have felt rich. So and the oil is outrageously high. They're making these fish oil capsules now, and so the industry evolved with the like you say, the evolving countries that's buying the meal and the protein for it, and it's really profitable, and they changed their way of working.
Right. Right.
And the safety issue is, of course, they don't want to get nobody hurt, but the liability and the lawsuits, what that does. So they try to make it a safe working environment for the people and more profitable for them. And it's changed a lot in 50 years from what it used to be.
So I guess I'll start with you on this one, has the labor force changed, who your crewmen are from in the old days when it was a lot of, African American fishermen and also guys around here that would go down or up there? How has that changed over time, Gary?
Yeah, it's changed quite a bit. Fishermen were a lot better. Now, we have real strict drug testing on our boats right now.
Oh, that's part of that whole corporate thing.
Yeah, and that's part of the whole corporate thing, and we're losing crew members on account of it. I mean, guys like to go out and party weekends, or during the season, even before we have a drug test before we even start a season every year, a complete physical. Each crew member gets that.
Really?
Yeah, a complete physical, and some of them don't even get through that. So we're losing good fishermen because of the lifestyle these guys live. We had, when I first started, my first year captain, I had a lot of Mexican workers on my boat. Mm-hmm. Excellent fishermen.
What year was that when you started down there?
2007.
Okay.
The year I was first year captain. But they had they come from these fishing villages down in Mexico.
Yeah.
And the company go down and recruit them and bring them up. I got a late start that year, my season. The crew members I had, for some reason, got delayed getting there, and I was like a month and a half getting started late. Had a green crew of men, which were brand new work, 5 brand new workers got on my boat. Within 2 weeks, they were complete first class #1 fishermen on that boat. First day I left the dock, went fishing, I caught 1,200,000 fish. Just about loaded the boat the first day. What a green crew. That's how quick they caught them, just like that. If we could have kept that labor force compared to what we got now, needless to say, my fish catch would, I have a third more fish.
Were they experienced at pogie fishing? Did they do that down in Mexico, or they were just fishermen?
They do have one-armed bandits, same fish boats down there on that west coast. They do, and they do other types of fishing, gillnet and all. But they were just natural-born fishermen, And
what happened to the Mexican labor force then?
For some unknown reason, we couldn't get them back. Something to do with
government would let them in. They passed a law about so many aliens coming into the country.
I think it was 60,000 they let in the United States.
Oh, so they must have been on that special work visa.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was.
That the crab plants
yeah.
use as well, because I know they got cut back real bad.
Yeah.
They couldn't get the pickers up here.
Mm-hmm.
So then what have you done since then?
Right now we had to train guys, I got this year. I have only 3 comebacks. 3 guys. I actually have one crew member who fished with would fish with my father one year. He's with me this year. I've got a mate that was actually mate with Al for 2 years back in the 80s. And a couple others, and the rest of them were just guys we trained last year, tried to train, just new guys. Some guys come on there and never seen a fish boat. Never been on a boat. But we had to train them, but that sort of, I don't know, seemed like back in the 70s and 80s, like I say, we had really good men. When the drug enforcement drug testing come in, we started losing good fishermen.
Yeah, and how about you, Al? What's your experience with the crew? You've kept the same crew for a while, haven't you?
I was lucky in Virginia. A lot of the guys that fished down at Beaufort Fisheries didn't want to leave home. We closer to home, so I got some men that fished for me 20 years up in Virginia, and it's a little bit. Virginia is up in the northern neck, Reevesville, where the factory is. There's no industry, so it's a little bit more available labor source up there because it is a waterman area. They work on the water, and there's really nothing to draw them away from fishing. What happened to the Menhaden industry in the 70s and early 80s when the land wages started going up? The construction industry took over and was paying people $10 an hour to hammer nails. We lost a lot of labor that wanted to stay home, didn't have to leave home, could make $25,000 here on a job. And we lost a lot of people to the increase in wages and, the construction boom. And heck, when I first started fishing, we'd leave out on Sunday night to be 8 or 10 men standing on the dock wanting to go fishing. And it was no trouble to get a crew, and good fishermen too. But finally, like I said, they started staying home and getting land jobs and not getting back in it. And nowadays it's a big problem. Mm-hmm. Like Gary says, Gary trained more men than anybody I know of. But it's people just don't want to do the hard work. It's dangerous work, and it's good pay now, better than it was, but still, you're looking at a regular crewman, if you catch 40 million, which is a lot of fish average to catch, you're talking $25,000 or, 16, 18-hour days sometimes. So it's really, it ain't too much to draw a person there, that wasn't raised in the business.
Yeah, really, the only thing that really does help, like Al said, was some of the benefits they get to help, dental and the 401k.
Right.
And all that does help.
A lot of them,
and a bonus.
A lot of them come in
because
it's seasonal work. And the golf is about 6 months, and they get 6 months off to all their unemployment. So it's really, when I say you ain't gonna make but $25,000, that's in 6 months. So.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, and then you're gonna draw $5,000 to $6,000 unemployment, and so it's really not no bad job, but it's most of the fishermen that fished in fishing, when I started 40 years ago, 45 years ago, whatever it was like me and Gary. It was generation to generation. Our daddies had fished; they'd bought them on the boat and help them get trained, and it was just. I don't know how many hundreds of fishermen used to come out of Carter County, but it was a lot of men that left to go up north and down south and stayed here and fished. It was a lot of men.
And now it's not always that case of generation.
I'm looking for a man now, and this is a good point. I'm looking for a man now to go fish me in Virginia, and I can't find one in Carter County.
Yeah, I'm lacking one too.
And he can't find one.
I need one good one. Yeah. I need an experienced fisherman, and I can't find him.
That's amazing because the job market's so bad right now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What in the world is everybody doing?
And that's why I preach to my crew. And like I said,
but I don't want to go
Sunday
fishing.
We'd have, we have a crew in the galley give me the safety meeting, and I touch off on that.
Yeah.
You almost feel like you're a coach at a football team, giving up like pepping these guys up and telling them, we got to do this, we got to do this. Let's put the drive on. Let's work hard. Stay on your toes. But
like Gary said, I lost about this this drug thing that's going on, craziness. I lost one of my best men this fall to a drug screen. They give us random drug tests anytime. They can come down and check you. I lost one of my best men.
That's what happened to me. And when they failed that drug test, I had one fail a drug test 3 days before we cut out last year. Lost everything.
Did they get a second chance?
No. They do if they go through they got through a 6-week drug rehab.
And then it might
and it costs a lot of money. The company don't pay for it.
Oh, gosh. Are you two the last remaining working captains from this area?
No, it's me and Gary. Captain David Willis lives right here.
That's right.
And then there's a feller in Beaufort named Marvin Summers. He's captain in Abbeville. And then
Captain Howard Lewis. He's from Beaufort.
He's from Beaufort. He lives in Mississippi.
He moved to Mississippi.
But right now, this past year, that's all I know of. 4 of us. That's for fishing, and I'm the only one that fishes the East Coast.
Yeah.
In North Carolina, and the rest of them goes in the Gulf. But
that's something.
Yeah, it is. Especially when you look at Gary and I's heritage of everybody, our cousins, our uncles, our daddies, our granddaddies, and brothers. It was just everybody Menhaden fish, and all this crowd on this point. The Simpsons over there, Johnny and Kenny and all them, and just everybody. All these young boys when they come up, most of them tried fishing. I still got Joey Piner. He was raised across the point. He started fishing. He was 18. He went mate with me on the coast of Myron. He's fishing with me in Virginia now.
Okay.
So, and my nephew, Rick Dudley, he's my brother's boy, Richard Dudley's boy. He's fishing with me in Virginia. So it's we still got some guys that do it.
Yeah, and the next generation too.
Yeah, hopefully so.
They become captains too.
Yeah.
Okay. So, what are your thoughts on the fact that the very last factory here in Beaufort is now getting torn down, right down the road? You drive right by it, it's being turned into a condo and dry stack and everything. And there's going to be no fish factories in Beaufort.
It's especially heartbreaking for Gary and me and our families, because, like I say, my great-granddaddy and granddaddy walked them docks and fished and fed their families out of it. So it breaks our heart. I know Mama talks about it when she goes by there. Her daddy, Captain Roy Goodman, fished there, and as young'uns, he would take them down there to the dock, you know, when he pumped the boats out and stuff. And Beaufort Fisheries have been part of our family for generations. So it really, to look at it and know it's never going to be there again, it's heartbreaking. It really is. And you think about the people who worked so hard, the ones that did work so hard to keep it going. And I mean, it fed us. That's all you can say. Our shelter and food come from fishing. And it's a sign of things that's happened, regulations. And it's a hard fact that right now on the East Coast of the United States, the only 2 states that still allow menhaden purchasing in their state waters is Virginia and North Carolina, and both of them still have some restrictions. Mm-hmm. But everywhere else, we got to be 3 miles offshore,
which is putting you in federal waters.
Yeah, in federal waters. That's why people never had to worry about the menhaden population, because we don't get to catch any of them per se, because we can't go where they're at, which is most of them within 3 miles of the state line and up in the rivers and stuff. So, if anything, it's too many menhaden in the ocean now. Nature's going to, first thing you know, there's going to be some big fish kills on the beaches where nature takes care of the population. Because on the East Coast and the Gulf of Mexico is the same way. It's millions of acres of swamps and bayous and land down there that fish go in and never caught. So,
especially the state of Florida.
Yeah.
They shut down the state of Florida, and there are just billions and billions of menhaden there. They're never caught. They're just down there, swim around. They eat. They die for nothing. Never used for anything.
What year did they shut Florida waters down?
What year was that, Al?
It was in the 80s.
Somewhere in the 80s.
I'd be lying to you if I told you what time.
Yeah.
86, 87. It's like 88.
I saw. I was looking at YouTube the other night. It was somewhere in Florida. These guys were fishing. They were sitting in a place of Menhaden, and as far as the eye could see, it was purple color. I'd be willing to say there's 50 million fish right there. That, I mean, never caught, and we can't even touch them. Al used to run to Florida a lot. When he was fishing Mississippi, they caught a lot of fish over there.
We did go to Florida, Cape San Blas and St. George.
When there's just one place you can't go. If fishing gets slack in one place, you had to stay basically in the same area and try to work and make a week's work where you could go to that other area. Let this one area rest, fish gather a little bit, go there where plenty of fish are, and catch those. When you get back, the other fish will be gathered up again.
Mm-hmm. Well, so what do you think the future is of the industry? Do you think there's any chance that, things will turn around a little bit?
As long as the market stays good, we have these markets overseas like we got in China, and places like that. I think we'll be in good shape.
It's an expensive proposition to run the Menhaden factory in Reedville, Virginia. If you don't catch any fish and just run the boats and everything, it's $130,000 a week. That's just for the labor, the fuel and stuff, just to run, to operate. So it's an expensive proposition nowadays, especially with the benefits they got for the crews and the cost of the fuel, which went up sky high.
But they're open to other markets too. They're like trying to get in the surimi business, and also frozen bait. They're shipping frozen bait now out too. Not only for omega-3 fish oil and other products they use, but they're trying to get other markets too for us. That's a good positive sign right there, I think. But like Al says, it is an expensive operation. As long as fuel costs stay basically like they were, and we still made money when it was $4 some a gallon. Say last year, company still made money. So, but I think that we do have a future. As long as we keep the borders open.
That's the biggest problem.
That's going to be our big thing.
Yeah, we got a lot of organizations and a lot of people that misunderstand. Ignorance is our biggest problem.
Exactly.
That people don't understand the business. We have the most regulated, cleanest fishery as far as bycatch goes of any fishery that's ever been invented. Like, we have airplane pilots that spot the Menhaden and know what they're looking at. The individual schools, we catch them. The nets don't fish bottom in the deep water, down they do in the Gulf. But we, at any given time, we can't get enough fish to eat for dinner on those boats. Exactly. But you will never convince people of that because they imagine stuff. They go in a country club and sit around, have a couple of drinks, and tell their buddy that the Menhaden boats were catching all the trout and striped bass and red drum. And that guy thinks he knows what that other guy's talking about, and that's the gospel. And they don't want to listen to scientific data, which a good friend of the Menhaden industry, Joe Smith over on Beaufort Island, which has studied the Menhaden for, I know, at least 20 years. And he'll tell any group that wants to hear or don't want to hear it that the Menhaden population is fine. Exactly. But they don't want to believe it. And we're dealing now with the striped bass population exploding, and all the sports fishermen want to catch striped bass, and they come up with things like, well, the Menhaden boats are catching all the Menhaden, striped bass ain't got nothing to eat, they're going to starve to death, which is a lie. They don't, but that's what they want. It's just another weapon that gets the Menhaden to shut you down. No truth to it, but it sounds good.
Yeah, we had these the Marine Fisheries down in Mississippi boarded at me 3 times last summer. They come aboard and take samples. They take a basket out of 80 Menhaden that was sampled. They run it out to shoot. Out of 80 Menhaden, one little baby croaker the size of my finger. That's all they got. and that was, figure out the percentage of that. But anyway, it's he looked at me and he said, man, he said, the only reason we're doing this is to give them more scientific proof that you guys are doing right. And these guys are really on our side down there, the Marine Fisheries are down there.
Yeah, that's good.
They really are.
If they could catch you doing anything wrong, they would. And that's a sign right there. I mean, we fish, we catch millions of Menhaden, and we don't get ticketed for bycatch. If we was catching it, I promise you,
You
the,
go to
the
you hear about it.
Virginia Marine Patrol comes down to the factory quite often and watch the fish being unloaded. And they're looking for anything, and they can't find it. And they have a lot of opportunities, but people don't want to hear it. You go to meetings, you tell them stuff like that. They got their mind made up when they go. We're big boats, and we're not pleasant to look at according to them, close into the beaches, and you just look intimidating. And everybody loves a shrimp boat. Everybody hates a Menhaden boat. I can't understand that. They write songs and stories about shrimp boats, and they write their congressman about Menhaden boats. So if you could tell me what the difference is, because I think they're the prettiest thing in the world, especially loaded.
Me too.
But people don't like them. We're big. They call us big industrial boats. They compare us with the factory ships that Russia and Japan used to have in, and that's the mentality they have about us. And it's hard to change. But that's the biggest threat, like Gary was saying, is if we can keep water to fish in, which are very few right now.
Right.
We have a very small area on the East Coast that we're just lucky that the fish up in New Jersey on the 3 mile limit has been offshore.
Yeah, I tell you, it really makes me sick when I'm down in Mississippi, knowing that Beaufort Fisheries is gone, and these people tell me about schools of Menhaden coming up off Atlantic Beach, the size of this house.
Yeah,
one after the
millions.
millions and millions of fishing. We used to catch. I mean, it's unbelievable.
And they just get to swim on by now.
They swim on by.
Yeah, or die and wash up on the beach, or die of old age, or whatever they do.
And that's it. You know, not used. It's just that's what they're there for, to be harvested for us. You know, what God put them in the water for.
In a regulated way. It's a very a Menhaden has the ability, like a lot of fish, herring, one of them, sardines, to reproduce in astronomical numbers,
each one
billions,
lays 100,000 eggs.
And it's one fishery. It's probably more Menhaden in the ocean than any fish in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one fish that can take care of its population. And if we don't call it a little bit and turn the population up, they overpopulate, and then disease and stuff takes over.
Well, it's probably almost time for us to go to the factory, but do y'all want to add anything, you know, reflecting on your career and your family's career in this industry? Well,
it's again, it's hard for everybody to have the mind state that Gary and I's got about Menhaden fishing, because it's so dear and close to us. I mean, it's all we've ever known. We're raised in it, and I promise you, every story that we ever heard in our life about fishing. When the men got together at Daddy's house or at my granddad's house, it was fishing, fishing, fishing. That's all we heard. And I would love to see it continue. I would. I hope it's a future for it, and generations can go on doing it, because there is a place for it, and it's a viable resource.
Yep.
And what people don't realize, every chicken and every turkey, I say basically almost every chicken, every turkey that you eat is fed fish meal. At a seminar one time in Mississippi, a man told us, without fish meal, it takes 12 weeks to get a chicken to the market. With it, it's 7. It's something in it just blows them chickens and turkeys and little pigs up. So it's a very viable resource, and it needs to be harvested and managed and taken care of. And I hope that it continues, and that people get more educated and have a better mindset about it.
Yeah, I just want everybody to realize, you know, when you see us out there, we're just a bunch of hard-working guys out there.
Yeah.
And it's got a very dangerous job, a bunch of honest, hard-working guys making a living.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of times I compare Menhaden fishing to the whaling industry.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, how it died. And I know the resource there was dwindling, and it was over-harvested. But I just think about them men that was raised in that occupation. I see the occupations on the water that had just shut down, and you see families that generations went back and done it. The cod fishermen up north, and the whalers, and the Menhaden fishermen. it's hard to see industry die, especially one where the resource is very healthy.
Yeah,
There's no reason not to have menhaden fishing.
that's right.
And anybody can imagine things in their mind all they want, but it don't make it right. And they need to be educated and have an open mind about it. But hopefully it'll go on.
All right. Well, thank you.
And we thank you.
Thank you.
Brothers.
You're doing good. It's nice to have somebody like you and Steve Goodwin
Yeah.
and Joe Smith and some other people that's very interested in the history.
Well, y'all are a living legacy.
I appreciate you.